Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Gosia and the team for inviting us and allowing us to speak to this full room of great and very creative and innovative people. Thank you very much. I'm Gregory Brzeski, and this is my colleague, Adam Dobrawy.
Good afternoon.
We both work at the Polish public service provider, which is called HyperOne. And we are here to tell you a little bit about our journey, how we started to create guides, which are part of our documentation as a code for web application, what sort of problems we met on the way, and how we solve them, especially in the area of localization, because we provide currently our documentation and guides into languages, how we maintain this documentation and those guides, especially in the area of updating and testing. You probably noticed I asked a couple of questions regarding testing yesterday, because this is the area we are really interested in. And as well as creating visuals, screenshots. This is challenging because our UI, UX people constantly update how the actual web application looks. It's little changes, little tweaks. Here, there, a little bit somewhere else, but it's continuous. So that was a challenge, to keep the screenshots updated constantly. But before we begin, I want to give you a little bit of context. This is our first SOAP conference, as Gosia has mentioned. You have never seen us before here on the stage, but you have never seen us among yourselves as participants. And you might believe it or not, but last year, while most of you were here, you were schmoozing around, you were talking, exchanging ideas, experiences, listening to great talks. Us? We didn't have a clue that such a great conference even existed. You may wonder, wow, what are those guys? Where they have been, hiding themselves? Everybody knows about SOAP, especially that it's got already a very well-established place in the calendar of most of the content writers in the industry. So, were they hiding somewhere in a cave under a rock? In far, far away land? No, I have to disappoint you, we were not. We are purebred engineers and developers. We never paid any attention to content, how it's created. We're the end users of content, end user of your work. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but overall, just an end user. So, we decided, how should we go and do it? How should we create content? Because things have to change in the company. Things have to improve. So 2 years ago, we made the decision. Whatever we have, forget about it, start the whole process over. And the first idea which we had is, okay, we'll listen to a great person, great innovator, Steve Jobs. And he had this idea. If you want to progress, you want to hire smart people. And why do you want to hire them? You want to hire them because you want to listen to them. You want to listen what they say, and they should tell you what you should do. So we thought, okay, perfect. Listen to the wise guy. We'll go to the market. We'll look for a content management expert. That person will tell us exactly what should we do. Together, we'll work out a plan, a path to the content El Dorado, and then that person will deliver it to us in small iterations, step by steps, with some failures, with some successes, but we'll be there. Surprise, surprise. We didn't find such a person. We did reach out to some of you in the audience, seeking help, trying to find out, get some clues how we should go and look for some people. We are still on the lookout. So we have decided, okay, we are engineers. We can make things. We can make content. Why not? On the other hand, what is content? Bunch of words put together, reasonably making sense, yeah? That's what content is? More or less, at least. That's what we thought at that time. Who knows Dunning-Kruger effect? For you guys who don't know it, really, it's worth looking up. It's worth researching it. As my kids would say, it's really cool stuff. So 2 years ago, we were here at the peak of Mount Stupid. What does it mean? Our experience was nothing. We knew nothing. However, our confidence was really high. Yeah, we are engineers. We can do content. 2 years later, we are still digging ourselves out from the valley of despair. It's a process. And we still don't have a technical writer. Oh, sorry, we do. But we still don't have an expert. What does it mean? It's a journey. So, as good engineers, what do? We look what we have. We look what the competition has on the market, here locally in Poland, as well as big players, big names worldwide. We look for their content, we look for their documentation, and quite soon we find out that there are two different areas of content. I might be wrong, but this was our, remember, we don't have an expert on board, we are just engineers. And we identify that there's a content which is embedded in time, time-stamped with date and time. Like, for example, newspaper. If you find a newspaper from 80s, you don't expect to find current information in it. You expect to find information from the time it was published. So this is content which is time-stamped. This type of content, other content of this type is, for example, blog posts, social media posts, press releases, case studies. It's all embedded with time. And there's another really big area of content. And this content requires continuous maintenance and updates. A big part of that content is documentation. In our organization, we found out that we need documentation such as reference documentations, guides, tutorials, we need quick starters, we need quite a lot of other stuff. I'm sure you can name way more than I can. So the journey began. But us being a service provider, what do? We provide services to users. What users need to do with the services? They need to manage them. How do they manage them? They manage them using user interfaces. For our users, because this is a technological services which we provide, they have 3 different user interfaces which they can use depending on the user, depending on their requirements. The most commonly used is the web management panel, which is targeted at technical and business-like users. Hopefully, it's easy to use, doesn't need too much, doesn't have much, it has low barrier of entry, and you can usually use it quite easily. I hope so, at least. That's what users tell us. There's another one, which is called command line interface, which is targeted in particular into system administrators, system operators, automation scripts. It's used in that area. And there is application programming interface, used mainly by software developers and for tightly integrating into another software, different software. We have, someone mentioned Kubernetes here yesterday. We do integrate with them. We integrate with Terraform and other common software in the cloud-native area. So, but for this purpose of this presentation, we are going to focus on the web management panel. So all of those user interfaces require one thing, documentation. A large part of documentation are guides. And quite often, guides and tutorials are those two words are being used interchangeably. However, for us, for our internal use, we have named them and gave them specific definitions. I'm not sure if I'm right. Again, we have no expert. We are engineers. So if someone would like to correct me after the presentation, you're welcome to. It's always good to learn something new. So guides, how we define guides. Guide is a set of instructions which allows a user to perform an action and to reach a goal or on our user interface. So in an environment which is fully controllable by us. On the other hand, tutorial could involve a third-party software. So for example, he needs to install some third-party application, then perform some actions in our user interface, then go back to the third-party application, do some configuration. When it's something like that, we call it a tutorial. So for the need of that presentation, we'll talk about guides for the web management panel. So we knew we have to create them. We knew that our support teams were requiring them because it actually lowers the cost of support. We don't have to explain each operation to the user. They can send them links with a nice context around it. So a new team member arrives, Adam. He joined us in May of last year. He is an engineer. Currently, he studies at one of the universities and does his computer studies master's degree. I will let you in a little secret. We're a Polish company. Most of our teams are Polish. However, one of our chief architects is Portuguese. So we use English in our team. Strange, isn't it? And Adam never spoke English before. He knows he's an engineer. He has to know English. But he never had a need to speak English. So he was learning. It was a new environment, new job. He had to do onboarding, totally new technologies, and a language. He's doing quite well. So he came in, and we were thinking, come on, what do we have to do with this new team member? A new student. We need to onboard him. How can we not do it? All right, we'll let him write guides. If he writes guides, he will learn all the nitty bits and all the little things, yeah? All the functionalities. He will know all the actions. He will know everything. Perfect. Job done, okay? So here he comes. And don't you have a déjà vu in here? Yesterday, after lunch. And we didn't know those two guys, Michał and Paweł. Honestly, we didn't know them before. We only met them yesterday. And so here he comes, a new guy. And us. All right. Here are our services. Here are our user interfaces. Here's our web management panel. Go, sign up, and write us some guides. So off he goes.
So when I received that task, firstly, I'm looking for examples of other companies. I read a few, one of them. Then I have to choose tools which I want to use for writing the documentation. I can use Word. I don't like commercial software. So maybe LibreOffice, this is also works. But I'm, as a developer, I'm more familiar with Git. It allows AC Char. So if something, I need some feedback, some review, it allows me easy receive comments which are disturbing my jobs and writing when I send my Word documents, so to receive a response with new versions. So I receive new repository which allows me sort the documentation, and I started writing guides. I've written a few of them using natural language. It was at the beginning interesting job, then becomes a bit boring. And I start notice common structures, common operation. So I'm thinking how I can improve that. I have to keep in mind that the terms which I use should be the same, across all documentation. So if I found new word, and during that journey, I have to come back and update all documents. I don't like that. But it was beginning. It allows me identify some structures, what is a common operation, and I created that using static pipe generator. I can show for support teams our documentation using written in Markdown. And I come back to the team and shows what I produce.
Okay, so it was a good job. He had all the files, all in separate files. No reuse. So we as engineers, we can see something needs to be reused. So we told him, okay, go and reuse. Build something, build some scripts, and reuse it.
Yes, if I have the common operation, I decide that changing the terms, the words which I want to use, is so boring. So I don't want risk that I do some typo. And so I extracted the commands from the guides and write in the YAML file. So one file, YAML file is easy to edit using any text editor, easy to manage, and easy to generate if I need. So if so, some of the guides I will also able to generate. But I need also the presentation of that. So I put it in the Markdown files, reference to the YAML files, and then I again generate a presentation. But now I will able to change the language very easily. I was able to, using the same guides, using the same YAML file, create guides into language. If I change operation in one language, I don't have to come back to another language to change that, because it was generated automatically. I come back to the team and show what I received.
Show us what you did. Next slide. Oh, it doesn't work.
Okay. I received something like that.
So what we have a YAML file, but this is not a YAML file. This is a Markdown with embedded YAML file. You see, engineer.
I have
it's a higher technology.
In that files we have three operations which the users have to perform. One of them clicks in the sidebar, click in the position specific elements in sidebar, then clicks in another button and create new resource. Then
Perfect.
Perform some fill a form, and I describe which forms should be.
So we have some stuff, we have some scripts. It all generates perfect HTML with everything what we need. Whenever we need to change the language, we can just add another language file. Done. We need to change something else. Done. Regenerated. All done. But then we think.
Then comes that challenge. How to name things. Maybe we are looking how to name that. Maybe some of them.
Maybe some of you will remember on one of the phase groups, we have asked that question, how to name it. We did get really good feedback from many of you. But we were sitting in a team and saying, okay, we have a problem with naming them. What about users? So what should we do? Visuals. Yeah? If we show them, it's worth 1,000 words. Yeah? They will know what to do. If we name it, they might not. So, Adam, go get us some screenshots.
Yes, but if I need to take that screenshot for each steps, and I don't want to do that, especially that I expect that our platform or our user interface will change. So when I do screenshot 2 days, tomorrow I will have to update that, because I am not sure which elements will be changed. I don't want to spend my life doing that screenshot. I want to do new things. I want to learn new things. So what do? I created robots which do that for me. Because I separated the steps which have to be performed in each guide, I can teach robots how to do that screenshot for me. So if that robot was able to open the browser, clicks on the button, do screenshot that button, get the information what is visible on that button, and go to the next steps. If something is broken, I will receive a notification. If everything is great, I got the new YAM file, which contains the labels on buttons and the screenshot for each step. So I don't have to spend time every day to update that screenshot because somebody can change something. And I don't have to verify. Computers will do that for me.
So to summarize, this system, which he brought back to the team, we said, yep, well done, mate, good job. What you did as a nice, perfect testing system for documentation, for guides. Because that robot on the previous slide, it has to actually perform every action like the user. If it's not able to, we know that the actual guide is not going to be able, so the users are not going to be able to follow that guide to get the expected result. So we have tests. And to summarize the benefits, whenever we run that robot, that's scripts of a student, what we get? We get our guides with all the text from all the buttons which were clicked updated. So if one of the UI teams decides to change the button add to create, automatically this robot will update it. No technical writer has to do it. All the text labels on all the forms which were filled by this robot during the testing procedure are being updated in the guides as well. Another great benefit, we always have the current screenshots. Whenever the user experience and user interface developers change something, and they constantly do, it will be resembled and it will be shown on our screenshots. However, really, really important, we have a confidence that all the instruction steps can be performed successfully by the users. So we don't have guides which can mislead user. And we have a very good and quick ability to generate localized versions. And not only for text, with the localized text, but also with screenshots. So we have visuals and we have screenshots. Can I ask you? But, can you go back to slides? One more. Okay, but remember, notice here, more technical ones of you will understand, we have just screenshots, and we got some YAM file. That's it, we just got lots of information. How are we going to present it to the user? This is not presentable. So, Adam, got all that information, off you go, give us pretty good-looking, really nice guides.
Yes, I received new task, how to present that for end users. Especially that will be, every day will be updated. So we need continuous integration process that from different sources of the information. If something changed in the panels, it should be screenshot should be regenerated. If something changed in the specification of the guides, it should be regenerated. Then we create a continuous integration process using my experience in DevOps. Then we receive new website. Everything, if something, ever new comments in the website, in the guides, we are able to automatically provide new guides with screenshot. So,
maybe you can remember that in yesterday's presentation, which Michał and Paweł have really greatly done for us, there was another new member on the team, and there was another onboarding. This time, technical writer. And the technical writer knows data. Remember, we have no content management expert. We have no technical writer, just a new one beginning to be one. But we have no data as well. So we have no legacy, if you can call data legacy. So a new writer on the team. Using those robots, he doesn't have to know anything about programming. He has to know one simple thing, how to use a simple text editor because that simple text editor is going to use linters, which are going to check stuff and the syntax for them. And they will have to learn one new format, YAML. It's that easy, as simple as Markdown, to fill in the steps. So their main job is going to be maintaining the wording, so something what they're specialists in the templates, writing introductions and summary for the guides to give users some context and then to summarize what they have learned and what they have achieved in each guide. And they will take a joint, please notice that word, joint responsibility for maintaining of the definition of steps and order of them, of all of those steps. Because in last few days, not last 2 days, but yesterday, we have noticed that there are two tribes, usually. Developers and content writers. They're fighting each other, not understanding each other. But we believe that both of them are developers. There's no difference. Developers, technical developers, what do? They write technical code in JavaScript, Java, Go, C, other languages. Why do they write it? They write it in order for the machine, central processing unit, to execute it, to perform some actions, to get an output, a result. What are content creators doing? They are writing code in natural language, but not for machines. They are writing that code for human beings. In order for the brain to execute that code, those instructions, and to achieve result. So both of those tribes are developers. They're just writing in different language. Why are we fighting? We should be together. We should be on the same team. We shouldn't be, in two tribes. Here are the people writing and responsible for the documentation, and here are the developers not understanding each other. So the future of our monstrosity, as two of our friends would call it, probably, is we are going to add content API to it, because we have this idea. We already have this content. We already have those steps. How can we use it in other parts, reuse it? We can, in our user interface, we want not to give users a better experience. We don't want to only provide them with textual instructions step-by-step on some web page where they have to follow it. We don't want to give them visual and to follow. We want to give them in application, in user interface, tips and guides, what to click next in order to achieve a given goal. Second thing, we want to open source this robot. Right now, it's tightly coupled with most of our other stuff, but we are hopefully going in next few months to cut it out and isolate it and isolate the code, and then probably publish it as open source. So if anybody is interested, you are more than welcome to use it. We want to use video generation because we got screenshots. The robot is performing all the actions. We want to record videos. And then we can use the subtitles from the generated text underneath to actually show what needs to be performed. And if we're lucky, we'll use text-to-speech technology to generate a voiceover for the videos. So this way, whenever something changes, we can quite easily rebuild the videos as well and publish them automatically. So if now imagine a user interface developer changes a color of a button. The guides are updated, the visuals are updated, the videos are updated. Text creators don't have to do those tedious, boring, and I'm sure not very creative jobs. You want to write new stuff, you want to expand your knowledge, you want to look for new ways to present stuff. So, in our opinion, what you should take away, the most important, content writers are fully fledged developers. You should be part of our development teams. And I'm saying this as an engineer. Documentation can be tested. If you include code, steps, Anything else what user needs to use or perform, it should be tested. I'm sure in all of your organizations, if you develop software, you have QA teams. They do it already. Talk to them. Become part. Use it in the documentation. Guides and screenshots we have shown can be generated. And it simplifies localization of guides with visuals. And this is it, what we have for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you both. Come join us. That was so nice. Thank you. We have like one famous developer. Questions. Okay. Like stop talking. Questions time. Okay. No. Yeah, we have one.
To go.
One
Thank you, guys.
We have one in. Okay, but I have a question to the audience. Let's save it for the last question. Michał, you were the first one to raise your hand, right? And there was someone else here, in there. Okay, awesome.
Hi. I have a question about this robot that you're using for testing, because maybe I got it wrong, but you said that it's testing your procedures, or what is it? Okay, so first question is how it's done technically. So it clicks through the interface, like visual interface?
Yes, when it was running, in development mode, I was able to see the browsers, and it clicks using develop mode to the browser. So I'm clicking directly on the elements on the website.
If you have a QA team and they do testing of the web application, are you already using this sort of software?
Selenium?
For example.
That's one of the examples. We use our technology.
Okay, so it clicks on the graphical interface.
We open,
right?
actually, that robot programmatically opens a web browser and performs all the actions. Can we go back first? It performs all the actions which are stored in that file, YAM file.
Okay, so this is the next question coming. Because you said that since we know that the robot is able to perform the procedure, we know that the users are able to do it, which I disagree, because you are feeding your robot with a YAML file that has only keywords and is like programmed to perform some actions, and users are reading your manuals that also include the sentences and wording that is created by a technical writer. So how can you know that since robot is able to perform the procedure, it's accurate for the user, which, sorry, I can't agree here that it's the same.
Oh, it is. It's a perfect question. I mean, I love this question. We are engineers. We are responsible for that YAM file. Who is responsible for the text which is generated based on that YAM file for that step? Content writers. It's up to you to decide what's going to be generated. As we said in the step down here, technical writer's job is maintaining the wording in templates. So in the YAM file, we got steps, and that's technical representation of each step. How is it going to be shown on a page? How is it going to be rendered? It's down to a technical writer. And for each language, it can be
but my question was like, the robot has a different input than the user. So the user gets your final manual, right? Like, I'm the user of your web management portal, right? And I read your manual. It's correct, right?
True.
So this is the final document that was generated using this YAML plus wording from the technical writer. So this is my input as the user. And your robot is getting YAML. That's what I'm saying. You know, that this is... so the understanding of the instructions can be different. Like, the robot understands YAML, and the user reads your final text.
True, but the robot has to perform those actions on the same user interface on the browser.
Okay, I think we are not getting close to...
We are not.
Let's
hopefully,
discuss
it later on.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not getting it.
Thank you anyway.
Thank you.
Okay, we definitely had two more. Okay, one question here and one up there.
Hi guys,
Hi.
Kate here, technical writer. Thanks for insightful presentation and your experience from like a newbie and how do you get into speed with things. But my question is, Can you please share how, like, do you use this custom-made solution, this robot that you mentioned, for continuous update of screenshots, and how and where do you update them? In some kind of repository, or like, how does the process looks like if it's not under NDA? Because it wasn't. Please just clarify. How do you keep up with this continuous update of screenshots if something is changing in the system all the time?
We are quite open, and we got a number of projects which are open sourced. And this is not our core business, so that's why we're open sourcing it. We are free to share. Usually in the cloud native applications, when it comes to assets, which are visuals, you put them in some object store. If that answers your question.
Okay, we have one more question, and let's make it the last one.
Hi, it's very interesting situation when a company start create their documentation from the beginning. So they need to create something from nothing. But very often that every company has their own standards, rules, guidelines for documentation. They use simplified technical English, for example, and so on. So do you have your own already own standards, guideline for your guides, for example? Your style, in what way you create your documentation, and maybe you need to follow these rules.
Adam, did you prepare a style guide for our guide?
Yeah, or you still use natural language, as you said?
I don't create it for style guides. I don't create it separate for guides. I don't create it separate style guides because we have templates which was used to generate that. But we have some structures how we should all of them which should be created. So far, it was not created by huge teams. So I able to control how it was written. But for others documentation, we start listening and creating the list of the rules how the documentation should be written, how the sentence, which sentences should be used, which sentences should be avoided. For example, that the formal language should be used. This is not obvious when it comes to new person.
And I'll just add that we use linters to do part of the job automatically for us and to actually bring up any flags if something is wrong. And we use testing as well on the documentation, and we try to. We're not experts in this area. We don't have a real full-blown technical writing on the team. We are actually testing that automatically. We are writing our own things to sort of catch out things like, for example, words which shouldn't be used.
Okay, so, thanks.
One more. Okay, let's make this one the last.
Hello, I have a small comment. For me, Adam, you've done a great job. Congratulations and bravo. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also wanted to say that I'm really impressed by you being here and like everything, and you guys. Thank you for sharing with us. It's really great to have someone like not doing mainly docs, talking about docs and content in general. Thank you so much.
Thank you.